I'll show you how to make this recipe, and I'm going to read the title so I get it right. It's super mushroomy, tiny pasta, cooked creamy like risotto, but easier. This is a technique that Scott learned from Mark Bittman, and it's an easier way to arrive at the joys and pleasures of risotto because you're working with pasta instead of rice. Now, our recipe in the book calls for dried porcini mushrooms. Melissa sent us some lovely dried chanterelle and morel mushrooms as well, and we tried it all ways, and any of these would be delicious, so feel free to change it up. Now, dried mushrooms are key here because anytime you dry something, you suck out the water, and what's left is the concentrated essence of that ingredient. That's why dried mushrooms are great here. We're going to show you how to use them to their full effect. Now, I said that this recipe is a little easier than risotto because you're cooking pasta in the style of risotto instead of rice. And the pasta we love to use the most is acini di pepe. It is this tiny little pebbly pasta. It can sometimes be tricky to find, so if you cannot find it, use orzo. Orzo works great. It's just going to take a little bit longer to cook. Now, aside from the mushrooms, our other global pantry ingredient that makes this dish super delicious is marsala. Here's the star of the show. These are dried chanterelle mushrooms. Our recipe calls for porcini. We're using chanterelle today, and we're going to roughly divide the package in half. We're using ½ ounce. A little goes a long way. And half of them we're going to reconstitute in water. We're going to speed that process up by microwaving this for 2 minutes, microwaving on high for 2 minutes. So I'll do that in a second. The other half is going to go into a mini food processor to get pulverized into a powder. That should be about good. Let's see. Oh yeah, there's a little bit of mushroom dust that comes up. It smells super earthy, like a woodsy forest. I'm just going to pour this in here so you can see the texture. It's pretty powdery, but there are still some small little flakes and chunks. That's fine. It's all going to get cooked together. It's going to be great. Okay, that beep means the microwave's done. So here you can see the liquid has already turned a little bit brown. That means it's extracting that goodness from the mushrooms. We're going to use that liquid. Don't you dare throw it away. It's time to get started cooking, and I've got everything lined up here so that it's all within reach. I'm going to start by melting some butter. I'm using just a nonstick skillet. Get that butter going. I'm over medium heat. It's already starting to brown a little, which I'm not mad at. That's always delicious. Then I'm going to add in, this is half of an onion, a medium onion that I chopped very finely. I'm just going to let that go until it starts to soften. Now I can add some sliced fresh mushrooms. We'll have those dried mushrooms going in later, but we also have some fresh ones in for that kind of meaty texture. Now that the mushrooms have softened, I'm going to add those mushrooms that we rehydrated in the water and all that liquid. That liquid is delicious. Here's the mushroom powder that we blitzed in the food processor. And then here's the pasta. This is a 1 pound box of pasta. I'm just using 12 ounces. I've poured some of it out already. And then I want this to just bubble pretty energetically and stir until the liquid is absorbed. Yeah. Now I'll add this white wine. I want to cook that until it evaporates and is absorbed. See it bubbling. Now I'll start adding the unsalted chicken stock. I have 4 cups here. I'll just add a little bit at a time. And this is very similar to the process you use when making risotto with arborio or other type of medium grain rice. You want to add the liquid a little bit at a time and stir to kind of agitate the grains, or in this case, the pasta. That's going to release starch into the liquid, and that's what makes it creamy. So let it absorb, add a little more, stir, stir. And you want to keep going this way until the liquid is mostly absorbed. It's going to take somewhere between 15 and 20 minutes. So just continue like this. And we found that working with pasta this way is a lot more forgiving than working with rice. It just takes to the liquid better. It is just more forgiving. All of the stock has gone in, been absorbed. You can see that the pasta has plumped up. You know, I should have mentioned that if you'd like to make this a vegetarian dish, you could use store-bought vegetable stock or mushroom broth. Those would be wonderful additions here. So this is looking good. It is creamy. The pasta is al dente. I'm just going to turn the heat off and finish with some salt for seasoning. You can always add to taste. And then I have some fresh thyme. And this is an optional ingredient, but one that we highly recommend. It's dry marsala. And those finishing touches are just going to add these pops of bright flavor. I'm super excited to dish this up and taste it. It smells so heavenly, just mushroomy, a little bit buttery. That marsala adds just notes of kind of raisiny depth. I know that might not sound right, but that's exactly what it is. Okay, I'm going to finish with a few grinds of fresh black pepper and some Parmesan cheese, maybe a little more. And now it's time to dig in. Oh, it's like mushroom lovers, you have to have this. It's so good. The dried mushrooms have a lot of depth. The fresh mushrooms give that sort of meaty texture. Oh my gosh, it's heaven.